Hello, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chat. Good to see you. A few of the early birds up and at it. Awesome to see. Aaron, good morning, mate. Kevin, all the way from Florida. Good to see you, mate. The one or two Facebook users in behind the veil in the Facebook groups. Good to see you. Morning, whoever that is. Luke, there too. Morning to you, mate. Got Danny. We've got Catherine. Good to see you. Hey, welcome along, folks. Thanks for joining this morning. Good to see you here. If you don't already know, Jason Witten's my name. Most of you know that. But if you're new, if you're wandering by and you've bumped into us and wondering what this Wealth Coffee Chat is all about, well, folks, this is where we catch up, have a bit of a conversation, a Wealth Coffee Chat, a chat over coffee about what is going on in the property market, property world, investing, ideas, pontifications. I've been investing in real estate in Australia and New Zealand over 20 years, been helping many property investors, maybe just like yourself, buy properties. We've helped them buy over 10,000 properties, actually, in 20 years. That's pretty cool. And along the way, we've learned one or two things and get to share that with you each morning. It's always nice to understand that, things are normal. What problems are normal, what problems are abnormal, and things you should pay attention to, and maybe things you should just ignore. Sadly, unfortunately, things you can't ignore are our number one menace. And we've got a few sayings around here. When it comes to the idea of property investing, this thing's a marathon, not a sprint. It's going to take time to build your property portfolio, folks. And I like the idea of just buying a good property and just keeping the damn thing. However, there are, unfortunately, directly or indirectly, whether you have a tin foil hat theory on it or it's just the way it is, often many others don't want you to end up financially free or well off. And they do some things that get in the way. One of those groups of people who are getting in the way, who tend to get in the way, are politicians. They absolutely love to mess with you and me and our financial well-being because they're maniacs, absolute maniacs, all of them. Doesn't matter who they are. But we've got to be smart enough to manage, navigate, to take care of ourselves in a way and take care of some others who can't take care of themselves as well. But anyway, there you go. Hey, today we're going to talk about, I thought I'd talk about something. Last night we had our mentoring night, and one of our students asked about the rent-to-build world, rent-to-build. And they said, well, you know, I'm worried about this rent-to-build world, this rent-to-build stuff, build-to-rent. You know, will it oversupply the market? Is there all of these properties and homes coming? You know, 1.2 million homes. Let's build it. Go, folks. Well, let's talk about that this morning. Hey, let's talk about that this morning. Quick, we'll do some quick hellos to Steve. How are you, mate? Morning, Allison. Sonia, good to see you. Friedrich. All right, there we go. And whoever is that one, right? So what do you think, team? Tell me in the chat. What do you reckon? You reckon the government will build in need to and have a bit of a look at, right? All right, morning, Rose. Good to see you. So 1.2 million houses in the next, yeah, no way, exactly. All right. So, you know, do you have to be worried about the market being oversupplied? I don't think so. I think there's very little chance of that happening in general. Very little chance, if any, of that happening in general. And most likely, even if it was possible to build these homes and these properties, they're going to be in places and spaces that you're not going to want to live. Or you shouldn't be buying properties. And we're going to talk about that in a minute, okay? As we go along. 1.2 million homes in the next 5 years, supposedly. Absolute dreaming. Anyone seen the movie The Castle? Tell them they're dreaming. Tell them they're dreaming, right? They're dreaming. However, here's a few things that the government's trying to do. You know, already they have thrown out the rules when it comes to, you know, property investing. You and I, as property investors, been supplying the market with properties for a while. You know, we pay our taxes, we pay our stamp duty, we produce GST, we pay our land taxes. You know, and they say, well, you know what? That's not good enough for us. We're going to give away money to big institutions. You know, going to reduce land tax. We're going to give you better loans, you know, all sorts of stuff, right? So the latest and greatest is that, you know, right now, the government's proposing that they give the developers and each of the states a bit of a bonus to try and, you know, boost this up. And, you know, here's some of the ideas, right? They go, okay, we think over the next 3 to 5 years, the apartment cycle will improve. Yes, it will improve. Only very slightly, I would think. And from almost decimation, almost zero. You guys saw one of the charts Sam showed last night. How can you not improve? You can't go any further backwards. You can't go past zero, folks. You know, some of these things, what is not being talked about is where we are right now. You know, the number of projects that got delivered in Melbourne and Brisbane and Sydney, absolutely, you know, completely and completely decimated the supply chain. Now, check this out. Here's something that I'm thinking, fuck me, look at this. Like, excuse the French, but seriously, you know, the government just caused probably one of the biggest problems ever in Australia's construction history by throwing free money at everyone everywhere during the pandemic, right? We've ended up with inflation out of control. We've ended up with debts everywhere. And it didn't fix the housing problem, did it, folks? Did it fix the housing problem? No, all right? We spent billions and billions of our money, your and my money, on taxes to try and stimulate the economy. It didn't work. It actually imploded it, and I'll show you how that happened in a minute. And then now our debts are up, and you know, they want to charge you more taxes for that sort of stuff. But here's the drill, right? Here's what's happening. oh, we're going to throw money at these buildings, and we think we should give, some grants, maybe some rent subsidies per dwelling that they built. So they're talking about giving $10 billion to rent subsidize these buildings now. Like it, unbelievable. Anyway, no land tax. Don't charge them land tax. Finance reductions, discount leasing, whatever it might be, right? Increase the density. Don't worry about the rules anymore. Don't worry about the regular developer who's followed the rules and done that for years, so we can make sure we look after our neighborhoods and the impact or whatever. We'll just chuck extra density bonuses on top, create more density for these people. Now, what year is it right now? It's 2023. They're talking about 2026. This is a long way away, folks. Is it going to happen? And you've got, companies like Mitsubishi. I thought they built cars. Oh, they're going to have a crack. I think there's going to be a problem here. All right. Is this going to be possible? Is it possible? And let's have a talk about this. Is it going to be possible? And if they can build these properties, which they won't be able to, let's have a look at where they're going to be if that's the case. Right now, if you look at our population, that's growing really strongly and will continue to grow. Our bigger issue is we don't have enough people for the jobs. So, the government is very aggressively opening the borders to people with money and people with skills coming into the country. But you have a look at our supply right now, maybe 170,000 properties across the country if you're lucky. That's the completions. And, the population, just the new population, folks, of 350, 370, 400,000. You can see a gap already. Mad, okay? Yep. Yeah, Woolworths is going to build, right? Yep. Yeah, and, how anyway, how do you guys think that that's going to go with the quality of our buildings and, the long-term viability of that sort of stuff? Now, this is pretty interesting. I saw this the other day. 2041. Now, that's not that far away, folks. That's, 20 years for some of us. 20 years doesn't feel that far. Well, maybe, I don't know. Does 20 years feel like a long time? When you're younger, it feels a lot longer. But when you're a bit older, you're like, yeah, I can see that around the corner. Have a look at this, folks. Like that is, that's close to 40 million people right there where we are, not far away. And this additional, is only 175,000 people compounding every year, plus some natural increase in population growth as well. Pretty interesting when you think about that piece of population. Where are we now? 26 million. Very easily, that's going to march on. And that's not a large increase every year, folks. That's not a large increase every year. So, are we going to be able to build these things? Well, I don't know. Where are we going to get any builders from? We've had, unfortunately, very, very sadly, the worst construction collapses I've ever seen in my 20 years. And from what I can tell from other industry experts that I know who've been around longer than me, they've said that this has been the worst in Australian history they've ever experienced. Builders having some challenges and problems. I'll tell you what the government should be damn well doing. They should be taking care of the builders that are already under construction, already building buildings, folks. Are you kidding me? Here's an idea. Let's chuck money into a pretend future, which is in 2026, which won't even bloody work, when we've got builders everywhere going broke. We'll go and look after them. They didn't do this. You guys did this, government, right? Out of control, spending money like drunken sailors, didn't want to make hard decisions. And now these builders are trying to do what you want them to do, which is build buildings, and you're leaving them high and dry. What a joke. What a joke. And then you probably want to tax them. And then when they're going broke, you're chasing them for money that they owe you that they shouldn't have had to owe you because you stuffed it up in the first place. What a joke. Anyway, I'm a bit bit cranky about that, right? But, let's have a look at this. Master Builders came out with their own report. They do good stuff, the Master Builders. And, the lowest they've seen in 10 years, right? So, are they going to be able to build 1.2 million homes? No. Seriously. And this is the thing. This is the thing, folks. They're talking shit. They're talking absolute rubbish. Not going to happen. Now, if they were able to build them, would that affect the property market? Okay, so where are they going to build them? To make these buildings work, it has to be high density. What does high density mean, folks? Tell me in the chat, what's high density mean? Like, what location is high density allowed? Like super high density in Australia? Chuck it in the chat for me. Where will these buildings be? Ladies and gents, put that in the chat for me. They'll be high-rise for sure, Matthew. Certainly. Where are the highest of the high-rises? Yep, boom, in a city. Matter of fact, folks, it's the CBD. There you go. The CBD. Right. Now, for you and I as investors, now, CBD. So they're going to be, 000 postcodes. Exactly, Luke. Now, tell me, are any of you investing in CBD locations? No, you shouldn't be. It's a terrible place to invest. It doesn't matter what they do in those locations, those 000 postcodes. That will not affect the surrounding areas, which are completely restricted. And here's the thing that we got to know as investors, even if this was possible, and it's going to happen, there's going to be a few buildings here and there, certainly not 1.2 million. Even if it was possible, it's going to be in CBD areas. Now, they're not going to oversupply the market, certainly when it comes to value, because to qualify for all of the, tax deductions and benefits that these institutions are going to get, they have to retain those properties and rent them as affordable housing or whatever it is for 20 years. 20 years, folks. 20 years. So they're not going to be, those properties aren't going to be available on the open market, okay? They're not going to be available on the open market. They're not going to be sold individually, et cetera, et cetera. So that's not going to happen. So will it affect our property prices, our values? The answer is no. Will it affect our rents? Well, the answer is maybe. Depends on how close you are to those buildings. It depends on what type of property you have. Now, what is the one thing that Sam has been talking about for a decade? The type of property we need to own into the future. Chuck that in the chat for me. What's the type of property that you need to own into the future? And this type of property is going to stand the test of time. He talks about it all the time in his 4X growth strategies. Put that in the chat for me, folks. This is so important. Yeah. Boom, Luke, all over it. Flight to quality real estate. All right. Flight to quality real estate. Now, that means different things in different spots. Go and check out Sam's 4X growth strategy. If you want to have the best protection mechanisms of growth and rental growth, it doesn't necessarily have to be high-end, Catherine, but it's called flight to quality, aspirational places where when you make more money, you want to move to. It's the upgrade property. It's the next level property for you and your life, right? The aspirational real estate. Now, what do you think? You reckon Woolworths and Mitsubishi and all of these properties, these companies are going to provide, all of these endless amenities? I can tell you the buildings will look okay to begin with if they get built, and they won't get built for the right price. I can tell you that. What do you reckon? You reckon they'll maintain these high-quality properties with concierges and quality living forever and a day? No, they won't, because the building, they don't get capital value growth out of that building. They only get rental value out of that building, all right? And what happens when You want to make more money, or you want your shareholders to be happier? Well, you cut your costs, folks. You cut your costs. You can't put your rents up too far. The government won't subsidise that stuff forever, and that you're going to have a bit of a challenge and a bit of a problem, right? So even if we got cracking, Grollo reckons, and they're a pretty big builder, they can build 3,000. That's a long way from 1.2 million. Long way from 1.2 million, But one of the other big issues right now is, the world of property investment trusts and the cost of commercial funding for these types of outcomes will make these buildings or these properties pretty hard to make work, folks. Pretty hard to make work. Residential rentals, unlike commercial rent, are quite low. Okay, the rental yield is quite low in comparison to commercial rent, and they're going to struggle to make these things work for investors, to people to invest in them. Okay, or institutions to invest in them. And in Australia, they're going to struggle to build them. You and I know this. You and I know this. So anyway, let's bring this together. Let's bring it together. Last but not least, since 1986, the most amount of properties ever we have completed, ever. Australia's record history. Record. The biggest record ever, right, is 230,000. 230,000. Folks, the most amount of properties we've ever built in our entire existence in Australia when it comes to, our cities is 230,000. 230,000. So let's say we could do that, Let's say we could do that, 230,000, divide that by, the 1.2 million. That'd be 5 years, right? That's where they've plucked the number from. See that? That's where they plucked the number from. Okay. Are we going to get there? Not a chance. Over 3,000 of our builders have gone broke. We've got massive commercial infrastructure projects going around on all around Australia. We've got the Olympics coming up in Brisbane. The mining boom's taking off. It's going to be extremely unlikely that would happen. Maybe a 10-year trajectory, maybe 10 years if they're lucky. 10 years if they're lucky. 10 years if they're lucky, folks. And even if they do produce this amount of properties, how many people are we going to have coming into the country every year for the next 5, maybe even longer years? Because this is a long-term plan. This is a short-term issue. Our population growth is a long-term plan. We're going to have 250 to 300 coming in every year anyway. We're already a few 100,000 properties behind. And they want to build 1.2 million in the future. Not going to happen. Anyway, there you go. Bit of a ranty conversation today. Yes, we did have the com games, and now we don't. Let's bring this back to us as property investors. At the end of the day, is this something we need to be concerned about? No, we don't need to be concerned about it. It's not in direct competition with us across the board. However, there may be an impact depending on the quality of the property that you've got and the location of a property that you have. So into the future, we'll keep an eye on it. But, right now, it's nothing to be concerned about. Unfortunately, the government's infighting. The Greens are bloody being turkeys. Dan Andrews is a maniac. The government doesn't know what it's doing. So there you go. There you go, folks. Anyway, that's it from me today. Steve says, any plans for the regional cities? Yeah. Not that I am aware of when it comes to the high density stuff, Steve. But yeah, we'll see. Yes, Alison, I'm with you. That's a cracking little deal, Alison. Yeah. Well, fingers crossed. Unlock it. Unlock some equity would be great. All right, folks. Well, listen, that's it. I'm done. Bit of a rant today. But anyway, the point is, are these 1.2 million homes going to be delivered? The answer is no. Certainly not in 5 years. Not a chance. And let's face it, when the government gets involved, they stuff this up. They stuff it up. Tell me what project they've ever brought in on budget and on time. Name one. Does anyone know any project ever in government history that they haven't doubled, gone over by time and money? Joke. Absolute joke. Anyway, don't get me started again, Jason. You've got to finish. That's it. We're done. All right, folks, that's it. Thanks for joining me today. Join me tomorrow if you're up for it, for another Wealth Coffee chat. Yeah, we'll do it again. As always, if you've got anything that is on your mind, let me know in the chat. Give us a shout out. Something you might want me to maybe have a conversation about. Happy to have an opinion, a pontification, a conversation about something that might be out there. Anyway, folks, you guys be awesome, be well. Remember, this thing's a marathon, not a sprint. Takes time. Buy well, don't sell. Good quality properties rule. Anyway, there you go. Adios, folks. See you tomorrow. Bye for now.